Yeah.
No, I like when podcasts just start like that.
Yeah, which is good because you're Seth.
Yeah, I am.
Seth Brundle.
That is who
Actually,
the fuck I am.
Chris.
Yeah, Chris McMullen. Yeah.
So let's start there.
Let's start there.
That's the intro.
As a wee lad, I watched this classic 1986 sci-fi film. It's my second favorite sci-fi film of all time, where Jeff Goldblum plays the title character, Seth Brundle, the Fly. And at the time when I took on the moniker, I was a stylist, but was going back and forth between corporate America and entertainment. So, making the transition, going back and forth, I didn't want my coworkers, I've always been like one of the only black people in the office. So people are always curious about me, want to Google me,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, okay, not to go off on a tangent, but when you say you're one of the black people in the office, give me kind of build that world.
I've always been,
What's that world?
I've always been like one of two black people in any, given space that I was in. And I did really long stints in the agency world, and I was always the only black person.
What kind of agency world?
Marketing.
Okay.
Marketing. Okay. So my background, marketing, PR, in terms of like my professional experience is marketing and PR.
I know that you were with 3 different magazines as like a fashion, like a stylist, right?
Yeah.
But you were into marketing before that, correct?
Before that, but like, back and forth.
Was that in New York or LA?
That was LA.
LA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were, tell me if you don't mind, tell me a little more about, because that's interesting to me, about being one of the only black people there. Like, what's that like?
I mean, you've had that experience like most of your life, right? Like being one of the only Hispanic people in the room, especially in professional environments too.
Well, now that you say it, I mean, yes, I have. I've had different, because I've traveled to London. Mm-hmm. When I was in London, I was treated very much like a minority, but like the lowest of the low minority. Yeah. It was weird. Yeah. And because I was with a couple rude boys that were locals, and it was because of skateboarding, we were on one of those double-decker buses and a couple Pakistani gentlemen, but I didn't know that culture, right? But they ended up saying something to me that I didn't even understand. They insulted me in a way I've never even understood.
Right.
Because it wasn't my culture. But these rude boys who were with me, skaters, they just went to blows on the top of this bus. Then the bus driver stopped the bus and he kicked them off. And then he took us maybe, I don't know, a couple clicks down, because, we're in London, so it's clicks. And he dropped us off. He's like, you're all getting off the bus, but I'm dropping you off separately. And it was just such a weird experience because I didn't realize it was because of me being Hispanic. Yeah. Until the rude boys I was with they told me. They're like, no, they insulted you and this and that. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? So that's a little side, my own personal story, but please tell me, what's it like? I mean,
it's a lonely experience.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lonely experience, and my experiences have varied from company to company, agency to agency, but it's largely been, an uncomfortable, uninspiring experience for me. And that's one of the reasons and one of my main motivations for continuing to follow my dreams. I cannot and refuse to be in those spaces, especially if I'm not passionate about the work.
Do you feel you were there because of your value you were bringing?
Yeah. I was always hired because of my experience and my expertise. I don't think I was ever in a position where I was hired as a token or hired,
I feel like
to meet somebody's quota.
I feel like I have been. That's the reason why I asked you that way.
Yeah, I never have been in professional, corporate environments. I have on the entertainment side because they needed a black host for the Black History Month, black stuff that they were doing for their Black initiative.
The way you put that, it's like, I just see check boxes.
Yeah, it's just like that's exactly what the fuck they're doing. They're just checking off boxes, but. I've always been hired, like I said, like in professional environments for my experience and my expertise. But, it's a lonely, very bizarre experience to be one of the only, in those spaces, especially where I am someone who lives my life out loud, wears my emotions on my sleeve, and I don't know how to censor myself. I don't know how to shrink myself. I don't know how to, not call out bullshit or racism or microaggressions or whatever it is, as it comes up. And yeah.
So I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So we've obviously been chopping it up before, just kind of talking about the show, what we're going to talk about. But right from this intro, I just say it felt really real quick.
Yeah.
It felt good talking about bad shit.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's helped to shape us, right?
Yeah.
It's a part of the journey. Like I said, it's part of what has motivated and kept me motivated to keep going down this road of entrepreneurship, of, chasing my dreams.
Because we were talking about this right before we started, actually, we hit record. And people come up to you, I'm sure, and like, how do you keep doing it? Because you've pivoted now a couple times.
Yeah.
But please tell me. Yeah, tell me.
It's always strange to hear people, say those things to you, right? Because there's this misconception about what this life is and the sacrifices that you have to make.
Being self-employed.
Yep. You know what I mean? Like, people look at Instagram, they see, the magazines that you're featured in, the television shows that you're on, and they think that translates to more money than you can count, more free time than any man knows what to do with, and so on and so forth. But what it actually means for us, as you very well know, is that we don't have any days off. We're never not thinking about work. We're never not, working.
Always on.
We're always on.
There's no clock in or clock out. You're just on.
And there's never a guarantee of a return from anything that, you do. There's never a guarantee. Like, we're always investing in ourselves, whether, you're doing a Netflix show that you're not getting paid for. Hi, Netflix.
You have a very interesting Netflix story too that I want to get to in a moment. But what question I have, because of what you're talking about, how do you stay motivated to keep pivoting, to keep putting yourself out there? Because when you're putting yourself out there, you putting you out there.
I am someone who, regardless of all the obstacles, the struggles, I am someone who absolutely fucking loves what he does.
Which is?
I am a television host. I'm a chef. I'm a producer. I'm a writer. I'm a content creator. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm this multi-hyphenate.
But you weren't trying to be.
I wasn't trying to be. I wasn't trying to be. I've literally, every step of the way, in my life, in my career, I've always gone with my heart. I've tried, the traditional corporate route. I've given it a good fucking go. You know what I mean?
Like, give me a story. Give me an example. Like, what was a corporate route you tried that just, it didn't stick? Wasn't a good fit?
I mean, the last job that I had was this marketing agency, and very small agency, owned and operated by one of the most interesting white women I've ever met in my life, who was so well-intentioned. She's so liberal.
Okay.
So liberal. And essentially, my being let go from the agency was based on my time off request for my wedding.
Okay.
And my honeymoon. She knew when she had hired me that I was getting married that following year.
Okay.
When I was getting married, how much time I would need off. And she was also someone who was single, lonely, childless. God, I hope she sees this. Single, lonely, childless,
was she a
always
mature
dreamed
woman?
Okay. Yeah, that I didn't want to mention that because I don't want to be ageist or anything like that, but she's just a miserable fuck, right?
Okay.
Who always talked about this desire to get married, have children, so on and so forth. So it's like, now that it's my time to do that, like, is this jealousy coming up for you? Like, what is this? Yeah. So she and I had a rift about my time off request. And, you know, keep in mind, like, I lived in the Bay Area at the time. We worked in tech. All of our clients were tech companies, major tech companies. So as a part of, you know, my benefits, I had unlimited PTO that I hadn't taken advantage of. I had been working like crazy hours for like 6 months straight for one of our tech, you know, clients that we had at the time. And as soon as I submitted my time off request, like our dynamic changed, the way she, you know, treated me changed. And then I was logged into her email one day, sending out new business emails.
On her behalf.
On her behalf.
Oh, okay.
She knew, you know, we all had her password. There were only 4 of us at the agency.
Oh, it's just.
So she knew. This is the thing that always boggles my mind when I think about this story, but she knew that I was logged into her email, sending out these emails. And because I was sending these emails, I needed to be in the draft tab. So she was drafting up an email to her friend who was essentially acting as our HR professional about this time off request. And she had kept a tally of all the time I had taken from the office, like for like dentist appointments. I remember my wife had gotten sick, you know, one day, and this is me like being gone for like an hour or two at the time or whatever the case was with, but she was trying to build a case for why I couldn't have, or why she didn't want to grant my time off request.
Okay.
So I confronted her about it.
Okay.
So, you know, the Karen came out and, you know, she became a victim, and then there was a question about my integrity for reading her emails.
That was part of your job.
I was doing my job.
Yeah.
You forgot that you asked me to do this specific task.
Yeah.
And I was logged into your email and I saw it. And I told you I saw it. Yeah. I confronted you about it immediately.
Yeah.
Where's the, you know, so all of a sudden I didn't have any integrity, and I was this and I was that and so on and so forth. So yeah, so I was let go. That was the last corporate job I had.
And then you went into fashion.
No. So I've gone back and forth. So I started initially I went to Morehouse. I went to,
I'm familiar in Atlanta.
Yeah, I went to Morehouse in Atlanta, went to an HBCU, graduated, moved back to LA, and I immediately started my career in PR and marketing. So I did the agency thing for about 3 years. And, you know, I just wasn't fulfilled. I worked for some pretty great agencies. I had an amazing boss. He and I are still really good friends today. He's, you know, made me all types of money. He's, I don't know if I should say what company he works for because I don't want to get him in any trouble. But he works for a food brand. Wow.
That's all right. You got a case.
Right. He works for a major food brand that I've partnered with several times to do corporate cooking classes. I've done recipe development for them, like all types of things, but did the agency thing for 3 years and I wasn't fulfilled in PR and marketing. So, you know, I'd always been passionate about, thank you so much.
Hey, for those who can't see this, it's podcast, but Brandon, our head of production, just handed back
It just floated back up.
It floated back up.
I flipped it off the countertop, but yeah, I wasn't fulfilled in that. I've always been an artist. I've always been a creative. And at the time, I really wanted to pursue a career in fashion. I wanted to design. I wanted to style. So on a whim, on a leap of faith, you know, I quit my job one day. And the very next week, a friend of mine, Monique Scott, may she rest in peace, she passed away 2 years ago. But a friend of mine, Monique Scott, she was working with Faith Evans, Kendrick Lamar, who was a brand new, you know, new to TDE Aftermath. Like he was just breaking at the time.
What year was that? 06?
That was
08?
No, this was 2011.
Was that when Kendrick Lamar?
Yeah, that was when he like broke. Like when Dr. Dre discovered him. But she had posted something on Facebook like, hey, you know, doing some styling for a pilot next week, could really use like an extra set of hands. Anybody interested in assisting? So did that with Monique for 2 weeks. We shot a show called Milk and Honey that eventually got picked up by my friend Issa. on her YouTube network, but did that, fell in love with it, and pursued that for the next 6 years. So
Just that.
just that.
Just that.
So in the midst of doing that, I started doing the web series Butter and Brown, my cooking show with my friend Leslie, and
And that was part of Issa Rae's network as well.
yeah, that
right?
was a part of Issa Rae's YouTube network as well. We were her first original format outside of her hit series, The Misadventures of an Awkward Black Girl.
Yep.
So we had just started doing that, and just as we had started doing Butter and Brown, my fire, my passion, my drive for styling was fizzling out.
Why? What was happening?
I loved styling and always will as an art form. It was the people. You know, it's usually always a people thing. So like as I was getting older, dealing with rappers and singers and their egos, their schedules, like, you know, my ability to make money being contingent upon, you know, where their career was, you know, what their public image was, what their transgressions were at the time. One of the biggest artists that I was working with towards the end of my career as a stylist, you know, ended up having like a domestic, you know, situation with his then girlfriend.
And that affects you.
Yeah, and that was my main and only client at the time. And I remember when it happened, it was like somebody pulled the rug from under me. All of a sudden, the money that I was, you know, dependent upon every month, like, was just gone.
People don't know that. They don't know that.
People don't know that.
There's a whole movement. There's a whole infrastructure around a lot of these. I mean, we call them celebrities, but they're brands.
Yeah.
And there's people behind that with livelihoods.
Yeah.
And it gets pulled. Damn.
Yeah. So around that time, my wife had moved to the Bay Area. We were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. And I swore up and down I was never moving up there.
Why not?
I never really fell in love with the Bay Area.
Okay.
I like the Bay Area, and I think
you like Too Short?
I love Too Short.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I love Too Short. I love E40. I love, you know, Mac Dre. Like I love the culture up there. I love the people. I think that's the thing that keeps me from saying I hate the Bay. Yeah. Because the people, like, I love the people up there. I love the food up there. I love the culture. I just don't, you know, living there.
It is a different vibe.
It's a completely different vibe.
Changed over the last 20 years. It has seen some incredible vibe changes.
Yeah,
right?
even in the last 6 years, like since we left, like it's changed drastically. In some instances for the better, you know, and others like Oakland is not Oakland anymore.
No.
You know, it's a very different place. It's been very heavily gentrified. You know, and that's unfortunate. But we went off on a tangent, but long story short, you know, my wife moved up to the Bay. I moved up the following year. I found a job up there for a financial institution. And it was the perfect thing for me at the time.
Yeah.
I was done with styling. We had shot all of our episodes of Butter and Brown. I did another web series with Issa Rae's YouTube channel called Fundamental.
So sorry to interrupt, but take me where's chef? Where did the cooking element come from in all this?
Forgot about that. So
because Butter and Brown's cooking show.
Oh yeah, all of these stories are interweaved. So I've always been a cook. I've always my entire life, I've always been a cook. I've always really enjoyed cooking. It wasn't until we started doing the web series that I actually considered a career.
And this was Milk and Honey.
In cooking. No, not even Milk and Honey. This is Butter and Brown, the web series. Okay. Milk and Honey, I did wardrobe.
Okay.
On that. Like I was still heavily in the fashion at the time.
Okay.
And pursuing a career in fashion. And with Butter and Brown, it was just natural because I was already, you know, of our crew at the time. I was already the cook of our crew. I really enjoy cooking. You know, Leslie and I are very close. We're very close. You know, back then we had great chemistry. People were always telling us how funny we were, you know, and I got to cook with my friend on camera. You know, I've wanted to be in front of the camera my entire life. So it was just natural that we started doing the web series. And it wasn't until we started doing the web series where I took a step back and realized like how passionate I actually was about cooking. It wasn't just something I did for friends and family.
Or to even get in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are always looking for their shtick to get in front. Right?
Exactly.
But it wasn't like that.
It wasn't like that. It was just it was just natural. It was fun. You know, Leslie and I were already friends with Issa. Issa was looking for original content to follow up Awkward Black Girl. So it was just something that happened very naturally, very organically.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic in that respect. But so the start of my career as a chef was with me doing the series Butter and Brown. It wasn't until then that I was like,
oh, really?
Oh,
that's interesting.
I might I might really want to do this. And again, like I've told you and you're familiar with, like, my story in this world, in the culinary world, is a very non-traditional one. I almost went backwards where, you know, a lot of the greats that we see on Food Network and all these other, you know, premium networks, you know, Gordon Ramsay, I went the opposite way. I started with, you know, the network show, and then I kind of worked my way backwards.
Well, like our mutual friend, Jeremy McBride, who you guys are hosting a show together now. I mean, he went about it his own way too. You know what I mean? I feel like some of my favorite people who cook, though, have that, you know, where it was just kind of, I don't want to say they were fuck ups. It's just they kind of, the fuckery they were into got them into it. Yeah. I mean, I've read Kitchen Confidential, and I was a big fan of it. And it talks about all that.
Fucking fantastic book. And I don't get me. My friends hate when I say this. I don't read. I read, but I don't read, right?
I don't either.
I have read that book from cover to cover 4 fucking times. I love that goddamn book so much. I love Anthony Bourdain. I love his perspective. I love the way that man writes. Yeah. That book is wonderful, even if you're not into food. Like,
I feel, because, and I think that's what made him so resonate with so many people, is because you could live in that world through that book.
Yeah.
And if you were curious about it or not, you don't have to be even into food to like that book, because the stories are that rich. Especially from a male perspective, when he's talking about, you know, doing shit in the kitchen, having sex in the, you know, all that stuff. I mean, if you spent time in a kitchen, because there was this point in my life where I was a sushi chef. I was a sushi chef. It was only because I was a patron of the place, and I had a broken leg at the time, and I had friends there. And I'm a Hispanic guy with these Japanese people.
Are you Hispanic or are you not Hispanic?
Yeah, I'm Hispanic.
I was like,
well, I got, I'm a mutt. I got a whole bunch in me. You know? I got a whole bunch of stuff.
But do you identify as a Hispanic man? Now we're getting deep.
I don't know.
Really?
Because since we're having this dialogue, my dad, so he's Guatemalan.
Okay.
Right? And he has Spanish from, like, Spain. Mm-hmm. And his father is, I don't know if he was the Spanish one. Anyways, long story short, he wasn't proud of his heritage.
Okay.
So when he came over here and he had a sponsor, him and his mom, they were fleeing, some bad shit in Guatemala. And Guatemala is not necessarily the safest place either.
Yeah.
But long story short, my dad didn't teach us as kids, my sister and my half brother. He was never attached to it like most Hispanic families are, especially Mexicans. Because when people would say he's from Mexico, he'd get all offended. Or even El Salvador, he's like, no, I'm from Guatemala. Yeah. Because there is, even though
there's a distinction between those countries. Yeah.
And so he didn't speak Spanish to us as kids. And I didn't realize it till later because he just wasn't proud of it. Like, because he has such bad memories.
Yeah.
Like abusive father, things of that nature. And it bled over into things. And so it's interesting because now he wishes he would have spoke Spanish to us, especially growing up in Southern California.
Yeah.
So when you ask me, what do I identify? The people who love me were not even of the same color or race as me, you know? I came from a silver spoon when I was a kid because of my mom's family. The white family, came from Texas, oil, like
your mom is white.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're half Hispanic.
Yeah.
Okay.
From my dad, but my mom was very interesting and had a lot of people of color around her. My mom was, and so I grew up around that, and those were the people who loved me. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I identified with the love of people, and I didn't realize anything about Hispanic until I was, in my teens, and when I was on my own journey, racing dirt bikes and traveling and skateboarding, and realized things, like skateboarding, you could be in an active area where there was gang activity.
Yeah.
but you'd be cool because people would be like,
the
hey,
bangers never mess with the skaters.
They didn't mess with us.
Yeah.
And it was a melting pot of humans.
Yeah.
It was awesome. So when you ask me, it's like I have to learn Spanish on my own.
Yeah.
It wasn't given to me from my own history. You know what I mean? The appreciation for my history wasn't instilled in me.
Okay.
So
that's so
I think of people who I've shared time with, right? And been loved by, and that's how I identify.
Okay.
If that makes sense at all.
No, that makes sense. Like, given your background and stuff like that, that makes sense. I just was curious.
Yeah. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent.
No, we went off on a super
tangent. When you ask me that, it's like, I'm going to give you a real answer to it because, you're sharing so much with me right now. It's like, I'm going to give you a real answer to it. Because you can choose your friends, right? And the people you surround yourself with, but you can't choose your family. Yeah. And what can I say?
Yeah, but you can choose your family too.
I learned that later on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As you grow, you learn these things, right?
Yeah, I definitely, there are people that I'm related to.
Yeah.
And there's my family.
It's valid. Not to say I don't love other members of my family any less, but my mom was the first to go, and she's the one I wanted to stick around the longest. You know what I mean? Shit.
Same.
It happened. See?
Same.
And because you lost your mother, and we had a conversation about that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's fucking tough, man. It's fucking tough. Fuck, what were we talking about before we went off on the racial identity?
It's culture.
Yeah.
Racial, sure, but it's culture, right? And it's the people you find good connection with, right? And a lot of what you're talking about, I'm not going to get us back to where we were because I don't totally remember, but I remember the feeling we were having. We were talking about you finding your place, finding cooking in all this because it's all been interwoven,
Oh, that's what we were talking about, the Bay Area.
The Bay Area, and you never felt like it was a solid fit. Yeah,
it just, it wasn't a good fit for me. It wasn't, but like I absolutely appreciate my time there. I was there for 3.5 years. I made a lot of money.
Yeah.
That was the most money I've ever made in my adult life. I was working full time.
Yeah.
For a financial institution, and I had a network show.
Dude.
It was
big ups.
It was an amazing, it was an amazing time for me financially. But yeah, so funny enough, we were talking off camera about this, but I've had the same issues that you've had in your career where, I'm ready to go back, take a break from entertainment or whatever the case is, or my priorities change, or I'm just not feeling it at the time. And I wanted to go back to corporate America and have had a hell of a time finding a job.
Yeah, I wanted you to share this story.
Yeah.
I actually kind of capped you because I was like, no, man, you got to save this. So tell me, when you went back.
Yeah, I've had a hell of a time. So I found, I finally found a company who appreciated my career track and the experiences I had. They were total. So that's one thing the Bay Area has every other city in this country beat on, is that every single company that I interviewed up there with, they were all open to the fact that I had taken a break from corporate America and pursued my dreams. Yeah. They were all about that.
I feel like the Bay Area is more open to that.
Yeah, they're so much more open to that, and everybody, a lot of people that you meet in those spaces have had those experiences too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I quit my job one day and went backpacking through Europe for 3. What?
Yeah. Well, they have that unlimited
Jim
time
from
off
accounting. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I had that experience. Worked for. So I got the job with the financial institution, right?
Yeah.
It's this is perfect. Gonna move up, be with my lady, take a break from entertainment, leave LA, get out of this environment for a while. So it's perfect for where I was at the time. Literally a month after I started that job, we got the call from Aspire, and they were interested in picking up Butter and Brown as one of their original, series for the network, because it was a brand new network at the time. I think it was 2 years old at the time. So it just worked out where our production schedule was perfect for, my PTO.
Yeah.
And so I just, from season to season, it would take us anywhere from 9 to 11 days to film, the entire season.
Damn.
You know, in those 9 to 11 day blocks.
How many episodes?
Perfect. How many did we do every season? 10?
10 in 11 days?
Yeah.
Damn, that's like some Rob Dyrdek stuff.
Yeah, so
I don't know
some
if you ever heard him
days
talk about ridiculousness, but he found a system to knock out shows.
Yeah, some days like, you know, some days were better than others. Like, you know, some days we would do 2 a days. Like, you know, some days we only had the energy for, you know, 1 episode or whatever the case was. But like the production schedule was great, you know, to coincide with my work schedule. And both the jobs that I held when I lived in the Bay Area, those 3 years, they were aware of the show. They were cool with it, you know, initially. But yeah, so I did that for 3 years. And then my wife and I moved back to LA in 2017, right after we got married. And, you know, she and I sat down and had a conversation and just agreed that I was just going to pursue entertainment, you know, full time.
Why though? Like, what about you wanted to do that?
I don't know. I get so much joy out of sharing my passion with other people. It is such a blessing to be able to do that. I've always dreamed about it since I was a little boy. You know, I'm an 80s baby. I'm a 90s kid. I grew up on 2 of my biggest inspirations in my entire life. And I know it sounds funny, but fucking Jaleel White, Steve Urkel, and Kenan Thompson.
Why those 2?
Both Black kids who had larger than life personalities and careers when I was a kid growing up, especially Kenan Thompson. Dark skin.
Was that Good Burger times?
Good Burger. What was the movie with Ben Stiller? The one where they did the fat camp.
Oh, Heavyweights. Oh my God.
Heavyweights, Mighty Ducks. A lot of people forget that Kenan Thompson was in all 3 Mighty Ducks movies.
No, but you said Heavyweights though.
Heavyweights was my shit.
That's something that my wife and we still watch with the kids because it makes us giggle.
I love that movie, especially as a fat kid growing up. Like it was fantastic. So I have all those memories of being inspired by them as a kid. You know, when I was growing up in school, I was in every school play, every, you know, school presentation, every opportunity I had to get in front of a microphone, to get in front of a crowd. That was always a place where I felt comfortable, you know, engaging with people, entertaining people, informing people. I don't know. I don't know what that is, but like I've always gotten off on it. I've always enjoyed it. But the medium that I've wanted to do it through has always changed. Like when I was a kid growing up, I always wanted to be an actor. And then around undergrad, like I kind of lost interest in that. Like I wanted to be behind the camera. You know, I wanted to get into design. I wanted to get into styling. And then eventually the desire to get back in front of the camera came back. So my buddies and I shot pilots for like, you know, stylists, you know, shows and series and different things like that. And like I told you, like how Butter and Brown came up, you know, it was something like it made sense. I love cooking. I love hanging out with Leslie. We're fucking hilarious. Like, why wouldn't we do this? And again, it wasn't until then, like I had no plans, like a career in cooking and culinary and being a chef, going to culinary school, fucking roughing it in restaurants in my 30s, you know, sacrificing my body, my back. I couldn't have imagined this life 20 years ago. And now I couldn't imagine another one.
It seems like you were searching at the same time, kind of, maybe this is the wrong word, battling with the difference between your responsibilities, the way you think you need to go through life versus the way you want to go through life.
Still. I mean, crazy enough, the last time I interviewed for a job was at the beginning of the pandemic.
Was that when they headhunted you?
Yes.
Please share that. Share that.
My show had just been canceled.
Yep.
The network was acquired. The pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what was going on. So my show was canceled. Didn't have any prospects, didn't have anything going on. And, you know, in the pandemic, I found my voice again, like doing live cooking demos, started a business through that, started doing, you know, corporate cooking demos for Amazon, for the University of California, system. I did it for UCB, UCLA, so on and so forth. But randomly, I got an email from Netflix.
Okay.
They came across my resume, I guess, on LinkedIn or whatever the case was. Like, we love your experience. We think you'd be perfect for this producer role here. And even though it's called producer at Netflix, it's more of like a marketing role, marketing director role. But I was open. I got a family. I have plenty of marketing experience under my belt. I've had network shows. Like, this is a perfect fucking fit of all, my life's experiences or whatever. Why not?
And it's a good paying gig.
Yeah, it's a great paying gig. It was a great paying gig. All right. It was a great paying gig. So they put me through the ringer, went through the interview process or whatever the case was, felt really good about every single interview that I did.
How long was that process?
2 months.
Okay.
2 months.
Okay.
Neil.
From the time they hit you up.
Yes. 2 months.
So you had hope in that.
I had hope. I went through several rounds of interviews, and all of them and I'm the hardest, my toughest critic, right?
Yeah.
I thought I did great every single interview. So I didn't hear anything from weeks at a time. I think, the last month of that 3-month waiting period or whatever it was me waiting on a response from them. And then I finally got feedback. And it was that, you don't have enough experience for this role.
What? You reached out to me.
You reached out to me based on my experience. What?
Fuck me, man.
And you've already told me about this role at length. What the fuck about this role am I not qualified for?
So
to do, what?
So what, did you get any more feedback?
No, that was it. That was literally it. So I left it there.
Shit.
I left it there. So, I think I think I'll always have that conflict. Even if, the conflict of, chasing my dreams and doing what I know I want to do as opposed to doing what I think I need to do at the time.
Yeah. Because
of my circumstances or because of, the salary that they're waving in front of me or because I haven't done a show in so many months or, whatever the case is, it'll always, be kind of, eating at me.
Yeah.
Like maybe you need to take your ass back to work. You got a degree. Go back to corporate America. All your friends are happy. Yeah. They're vacationing. Your boy just bought a new car.
But are they happy?
I think most of them are, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but
you're fortunate to be surrounded with a lot of happy people.
Yeah, I think my friends, just in general, and no specific one, I think my friends in general are pretty happy with their careers. The thing that we don't have in common, though, is I don't share being a dreamer and being a creative with a ton of my friends. Only a couple of them.
Because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard because you might come across one way. People who know you, but you're a person of action because your track record shows it. But it's a challenge.
It is.
It seems like you, as much as you may want to try to fit into certain things, you can't because it's not a fit. Period. It's very square peg, round hole type stuff.
And it has been every single time for every agency company that I've worked for in corporate America. I have some story.
Yeah.
They never ended well. I had great experiences, of course. I learned a lot. I met some great people along the way.
Sounds like you provided value.
Yeah, I provided value. Yeah. Like I said, shout out to Craig Rexroad, the best fucking boss I've ever had, in my life and in that realm.
What made him a good boss?
Man, so many things. He was just a realist. He was a very balanced professional in my experience. He is a very balanced professional where Craig he's a goofball. He's a prankster. He's a jokester. But with the snap of a finger, he can transform into one of the most articulate, knowledgeable, brilliant fucking professionals you've ever, met in your life. I worked with him for 3 years at an agency in Santa Monica called Blaze. And I just remember the first instance I got of like the full Craig when, and it was my first taste of crisis management with PR.
Yeah.
Most of what we did there was hospitality, PR. Most of our clients were resorts and hotels and different things like that. And we had this horrible instance where a woman was sexually assaulted at one of our luxury resorts that we rep. So, of course, they were my client. The communication came to me directly. I'm like 23.
Okay.
I'm green as fuck. Like, I'm used to pitching, prefix menus at, this resort. Lighthearted shit.
Real
right,
quick.
It got real, really quick. And just the way that, like, how calm Craig was, like, how he was dialed in. Yeah. He knew exactly what to say. He was just, he's a brilliant guy. So this could very well be the Craig Rexroad podcast.
Shout out to Craig.
Yeah, I love that guy.
He's
an incredible human being. But he was compassionate, but he could, be tough at the same time if you needed it. He's just very intuitive in that way where, he can read you and just say, I'm going to take it easy on him. I'm going to tell him what he needs to hear, but I'm going to take it easy on him.
How many years your senior was he?
Craig is in his 50s now, so
okay,
20 something years. Yeah.
So it sounds like the magic of time kind of helped him see how he needs to handle a situation.
For sure,
situation.
Absolutely.
So from what you're sharing, it seems like very much so. Your pivots and staying motivated. It's almost like it wasn't an option. It's like, no, you got to do that shit.
I got to do that shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always,
but you have to find it. Like, where do you find your motivation to be like, well, I'm going into this now, or I'm starting this now? Because it's almost like you do have to reset, even though you come now fully, much more equipped.
Bro, I don't know how I stay motivated. I think to your point, I don't know that it's something that I'm conscious of, I give a ton of thought to. It's just something I have to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I've had enough experiences to inform me of what it is that I love to do, what gets me off, like what gets me out of bed every morning. And I have to pursue this.
Well, what gets you out of bed?
Creating.
Just
in the broad sense, a recipe, a series format, a marketing idea, a template for my Instagram stories.
Yeah.
Creating.
Yeah.
Creating. Every day is an opportunity to create something. And every time I think about that fact and that point, I know I believe in God. I'm not the most religious person in the world, but I always think about, us being created in God's image.
Okay.
And God being a creator himself, and that being, my alignment with him. God is not one thing. He's a bunch of different things to a bunch of different people, depending on who you are and your perspective. But
that's valid. Yeah.
For me, that's my alignment with God, is that I'm a creator just like him. And that's what keeps me motivated. I get so much joy out of it.
How does your missus compliment that? Because it sounds like when you talk about her, it's like you are in a good relationship.
Yeah.
You have a good partner in life.
Yeah. She compliments that by just understanding. You know what I mean? Like, it takes a special person to be with a special person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially creative.
Yeah, especially a creative. And
you have 3.
Yeah.
3 kids.
No. We have 1.
Just the 1.
Yeah, we just have 1.
Oh, I thought you had
I was
3.
like, wait, no.
Because we were talking about
Absolutely not. No.
Was that your sister?
No. I have 2 brothers. So between my brothers,
maybe that's
I
where
have
I
9
was
nieces
mistaken.
and nephews.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes,
right.
I only need
Big
1.
crew. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, you only
oldest
gonna
is
have
22.
the 1?
I think so, yeah.
All right.
I think so. I'm old, man. I can't.
How old are you?
I would love. I'm 38.
Just so
I
you
would
know,
love
Charlie
to have.
Chaplin made a baby at 72 or something.
Yeah, just because you can doesn't mean you should, though. You know what I mean? Like, that's not fair. Like, I feel like I'm too old now a lot of times for my kid. Like, I don't want to be that old, but like, I'd be open to having one or two more kids. The biggest thing with me is like the sleep factor. And I think we've talked about this.
Yeah, we
before.
did. We talked a little bit about sleeping.
I've always been a shitty sleeper in general.
Yeah.
But in the past 4.5 years since my son was born, who still doesn't sleep through the night, I can't do that shit again.
Yeah, man.
I literally, like, for the sake of my mental health, I don't think I could do that again.
No, I mean, I wasn't good with babies. Once each of my kids hit 6, it's almost like we connected.
Yeah.
In a way that I had only hoped we could connect.
Yeah.
But up until 6, it was a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, there's love there, but it just seemed like we couldn't relate.
Yeah.
And thank goodness for my missus, because she handled shit, you know?
And that's what a great relationship is all about, is that balance, right? You know, she can where you can and vice versa.
So what does she think about? Because it sounds like she's been with you on this journey quite a bit.
Yeah, we've been on this journey together for years. I'd be lying to you if I said, you know, we don't have our challenges, we don't struggle, you know, with that understanding, you know, about what, you know, this all means. Like,
right, being
a creative, being an entrepreneur, being a permanent 1099er. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think what helps us is that my wife sees me.
Yeah.
She knows me. You know, she knows what makes me happy, what gets me up in the morning. She's talked at length about, you know, where my spirit was at different times, like working corporate jobs. You know, so I think that keeps her anchored.
Well, clearly the two of you connected with the person you probably should like the most.
Yeah.
And the person that seems like you like being the most is the one that's following the direction that just feels like a good fit.
Indeed.
Which is creative.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's a lot of people always wonder, you know, how do you stay motivated? But in your case, man, it's just like, what was the alternative?
Yeah, there's no... And do what?
Yeah.
That's the question. And do what?
Yeah.
If not, follow my passions.
Yeah. Because we're fortunate to live in a society, an area where we can find a way to turn that passion into some sort of revenue.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously you're taking care of your family.
Yeah. And that's and I think the place where I've found the greatest sense of balance is in my business, you know, with my food services business. You know what I mean? Where, you know, I have one that's seasonal, you know, my private chef, celebrity, you know, catering business, and then my institutional food services business.
Where does the pop-up stuff fit in next? I know you have a pop-up that you're promoting right now. It's coming out, in August?
So I'm doing another one this summer. I don't have a date for it. The last one was in August.
Okay.
Yeah, the last one was in August. So the pop-up series is the same name as my luxury catering company, so The Seasoning.
Okay.
So my pop-up series is just a pop-up restaurant series where I feature some of my most popular recipes or things that I'm just like workshopping at the time.
Yeah.
So I've done 2 of them so far. The first one was a fast casual type of vibe. I did it at this beautiful space that's since closed in the Arts District downtown called Asia.
Okay.
So it was super
I'm not
tricked
familiar
out.
with it, but it sounds dope.
Yeah, it was super tricked out. Great sound system, great bar, like the decor, like everything was great. And it was perfect for the pandemic because people were able to social distance and different things like that. So that was great. And then the last one I had last August was a luxury 5-course sit-down dinner.
Okay.
That was $250 a ticket. And there was a wine pairing for each course from this South African wine company called Kamusha Wines.
Okay.
So it was great. So the next one I'm thinking is going to be another fast casual. I'm giving you an exclusive deal. No. So it's probably going to be taco themed.
Okay.
I've been workshopping these taco recipes for a couple years now, and my wife and my friends have been pushing me, to showcase them. So I think the next one is going to be taco themed, and it'll be sometime this summer. So I'm excited.
How many people came to the one where you're like 250 ahead?
So 250, that was smaller. So it was an intimate. There were 2 intimate dinners, and I partnered with 1010 Wine and Events in Inglewood.
Okay.
First Black woman-owned wine bar in Southern California. So that one we did 40 people per dinner.
Okay.
And I'll show you some pictures from it. It was so nice. It was
please.
amazing. But the first pop-up I did, it's fast casual. So I don't know exactly how many people we had, but I sold 1,000 units. Okay. So between the pre-bottled cocktails and all the menu items I had, I know it was 1,000 units. So,
damn, and it's basically a one-day hustle.
Yeah, it was a one-day hustle.
There's a build-up and everything, but it's still a one-day hustle.
It's still a one-day hustle, and it's a fucking grind. It's so hard to do a one-day pop-up, especially in a space that you don't work out of every day and ingredients that you don't work with on a daily basis.
So I ran events, and we had an event space during the pandemic at the spot across the street from Capitol Records.
Yeah,
because we had a rooftop. We ran a lot of shit. We had 44 events in 1 month because people were jonesing to get out. And so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Jesus H.
We were
44 in a month?
In a month. Because people were like, and remember those brunches, Sunday brunches, right around pandemic, especially in LA? People,
I'm Sunday brunch age. I love a good Sunday brunch.
One time though, it was, you remember, it was Buckwild, our head of production, Brandon. I go up, it's a brunch, Sunday brunch on the rooftop, beautiful. They're going to sunset. It's around 6 p.m. People are feeling it's going to stop at 9 because it was a brunch. They started at 4. Listen to Fela, there's good vibes. It's that culture, that crowd.
Yeah.
And I would always pop up, and I was running the building just kind of because we had a private theater, we had a private screening going down, we had some other stuff happening. 9 p.m. I go up right before it's about to close. It's too short. And these same crowd are holding on to the railings, getting buck wild. And I'm just like, I was just up here 15 minutes, 30 minutes ago. That sounds like a good
Sunday brunch.
I was like, what the hell just happened? Like, it went from the most chill, like, everybody hugging, feeling good about themselves.
That's a great Sunday brunch. Yeah.
Like, oh, my gosh. So I'm like, we got to tone this down quick.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was what's happening. So when you talk about these one-day grinds, yeah, I get it, man.
It's a lot, like all that prep, transporting the food safely, battling with storage space, like at the spaces you're going into. Remember the first pop-up I did, did I do 2 or 3 desserts? But one of the components of one of the desserts was vanilla ice cream.
Okay.
And I told them over and over, I needed the freezers turned on the day before.
They don't understand the severity of that simple decision. Yeah. If you don't know, you can't appreciate how.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the pop-up ran for 8 hours. The latter half of the people that came to pick up their orders, hang out, dine in and stuff like that, they either didn't have ice cream, or if they didn't want it, or they had like a pool of vanilla cream. Like,
yeah.
They didn't plug in the freezers until we got there. So,
and that's the finisher.
Yeah.
Come on,
exactly. Man. And the walk-in wasn't cold enough to keep the ice cream or whatever the case is, but there are all these factors that you have to,
How'd you solve that problem? Or what'd you do?
Yeah, I couldn't. So the dessert, so it was my it was my peach cobbler bread pudding.
Okay.
With whiskey glaze, and I serve it with vanilla bean ice cream. The dessert is good enough and holds up on its own without the ice cream. So I think we did this a holiday weekend, and because we were in the arts district, there was no place that sold bulk vanilla ice cream that we could go to and get it from, and it was like dead heat of summer. So, if we had purchased it, brought it over, the same thing would have happened. So we just forfeited it.
But it was fortunate because it was a compliment to the dish.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not what you envisioned, but you do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do. And people were very understanding. That was the other thing. Like, shout out to everybody, who supported and attended my first pop-up, because we had a couple of really big like snafus. So like we ran out of to-go boxes. You know, we were serving everything to go. We ran out of boxes like 2 hours before it was over. So we had to halt service for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So people had to, whatever the normal wait time was, people had to wait an additional half hour for their food. But this is where, you know, we talked about my wife and her support and different things like this. This is where she's a genius. So she and her friend ran down the street to the closest liquor store they could find. They bought as many bottles of champagne as they could get their hands on and red Solo cups. And they just went around. There were hundreds of people there. They just went around pouring people free champagne. And I kept getting on the mic and apologizing. And everybody was like, shut the fuck up. We're having a great time. We'll wait on the food. We heard from these people who've already eaten that it's so good, so on and so forth. So it was amazing. So like the two biggest, you know, obstacles that we had were the ice cream, the running out of boxes, and then I think the last 10 orders for the night, we had run out of food completely. Like we had, one of the dishes that we did was, that I did was jerk chicken fried rice.
Yeah.
So we had like a mound of jerk chicken.
Okay.
But no rice. We run out of rice. There's this dish I created called the charcuterie burger.
Okay.
We had the prosciutto, we had brie and arugula, but we didn't have buns or, you know, ground beef left.
It sounds so interesting, the charcuterie.
Yeah, so it's like, it's all the components of like of charcuterie, like, you know, brioche bread, arugula, I did brie, gorgonzola, prosciutto, crispy prosciutto, beef patty, and berry compote.
Damn.
Yeah, it is fucking delicious. You get every note. You get juicy, meaty, tangy, sweet.
No, it sounds.
You get the peppery.
Make me want to say some
arugula.
Stupid Guy Fieri shit.
Yeah,
like a flavor.
You're gonna you're rolling into fucking Flavor Town with that shit. Like it's one of my proudest recipes, like for sure. But both pop-ups were incredible.
Have you ever read Danny Mayer's book? Shake Shack founder.
I have not.
So he has a couple cooking books. One's called Setting the Table, and he talks about hospitality and service. Mm-hmm. Good service is doing what you're supposed to do properly. Hospitality is the way you make people feel. Okay. And I'm a big fan of what he was pitching.
You got to text me that book when we finish. I definitely want to pick that up.
I'm a big fan of the way he talks about it. I don't know Danny Mayer personally, but as far as what he talks about in that book, it applies to so many things when you're dealing with other people, because hospitality, and what you're talking about, your wife with the champagne, that's how people felt, right? That cliche that people say that people don't always remember what you did or what you say as much as how you made them feel when you pass on. Yeah. And if you make people feel good, then they remember you fondly.
And they do, and it you know, it's just such, it's a testament to exactly what you're talking about. Like, you just reminded me there was someone who came to the pop-up. They waited over an hour for their food. I don't know what happened with the ticket, because we had a ticketing system. I don't know what happened with their ticket. They waited over an hour for their food and ended up having to leave without their food. Oh, damn. So I went to go refund them. Shopify, if you want to pay my buddy Neil here for his podcast, I'll sing you guys' praises. I love Shopify. But Shopify has a cool feature where you can refund people in real time from the app right there.
I've been a Shopify partner for like probably 14 years.
He's a Shopify partner.
I love Shopify.
I love it.
It's empowered people to take care of some just incredible stuff.
And their platform is really, really intuitive. Like, even if you don't have a design, you know, bug in your body at all, like, you can get on that platform, and just figure it out. Your
images, it'll help a long way.
Yeah, so I went to refund somebody, and they're like, dude, I had an incredible time. I love you. I'm supporting what you're doing. If you try to refund me, I'm going to send the money back to you via Venmo or some other, you know, vehicle or whatever the case was. And that type of feedback for me, like, meant everything. And that's why I want to read that book that you were talking about. Like, I just told someone who asked me about my career, you know, and why I enjoy cooking so much. One of the things that I told them is most work is thankless, right?
Yeah.
most work is thankless. Like, bust your fucking ass, you know, hours upon hours, days upon, you know what I mean? And it's thankless. Cooking is one of the few things where you get to see people's reaction, you get feedback and praise in real time. That experience of being praised for your work and your effort in real time, it doesn't always happen for me, right?
No, it's true.
You know, depending on what I'm doing, but I love that shit.
Yeah, it feels good.
It feels good, and you know, I don't know. It's so awesome to just like curate those types of experiences for people, to introduce them to the ingredients that they've never had, flavor profiles they've never tasted, you know, to be responsible for creating the thing that sparked a conversation that, you know, sparked a friendship, a romance, you know,
relationships,
an idea.
Food.
Exactly. Like it's so much fucking fun. Yeah. And I just love, like, the thing I love most about it, like the highest compliment you could give me as a chef is to curse me out. If you're like, what? Dude, what the fuck were you thinking about? This is so fucking good. Like, I love that kind of response.
I was like, where are you going with that?
No. Yeah. I love that kind of response. You know, like, people's minds are so blown that they feel compelled to just curse you out. I love it.
Yeah, the right culture will give you that. Yeah. That shit's funny, man.
Yeah.
Damn, you make me think of so many things when we're talking, because you talk about problem solving without having to talk about it. You talk about creating these feel-good environments without having to directly say it. You talk about almost combating ego without having to really directly hit it. It's so interesting. That's why I love talking with you, and that's why I want to talk with you more. But one of the things you talked about when we started talking about this pop-up that I'm curious, because I'm always curious about it. So I'm more curious about it. And we've talked about this even off camera about putting more stories and voices out there. Mm-hmm. And you said a female-owned black business was where you did the pop-up, right? Mm-hmm. What is it about saying that you feel needs to be important? Like, what, you know, I have a perspective, right, from my own perspective, but I'm not black. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm only who I am. Yep. And I grew up in a different time than people before me. Yeah. You know, and my kids are growing up in a different time. You know what I mean? But when you say that, what is it that you want people to hear? Like, what should they be actually hearing and feeling
when you say that? Best questions anybody has ever asked me. Wow. It's important for me to state that as many times as I can, because of, shout out to Leslie and Leanne Jones. They're the two sisters who own 1010 Wine and Events. They're
Leslie Jones. Am I thinking of the SNL?
Not SNL Leslie Jones.
Maybe I think Leslie Jones.
It's funny. I saw her on Saturday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, one of my friends, shout out to Tasha Prothro. Her birthday was yesterday. She's one of my closest friends. She's also a chef, private chef to Leslie Jones. So Leslie came to her birthday party.
Oh, this is full circle.
Yeah, it was the first time I had ever seen or met Leslie Jones, like, in person in my life. Who was very, very sweet. And she adored my little boy. So thank you, Leslie Jones, but a different Leslie Jones.
Yeah.
I feel the need to repeat that as many times as I possibly can, because of what a big deal and what it means for those ladies to have accomplished that. How difficult it is for Black and brown entrepreneurs to get small business loans, to be approved for liquor licenses, to all the obstacles that you have to go through. Not being Nepo babies, not being silver spooners, like so on and so forth. Babies, yeah. They literally got it out the mud.
Yeah.
You know, even their older sister, Leah, like all three, they are three incredibly dynamic women who have accomplished so much and are still, like, daily, like, just blowing my mind with the things that they're able to do. So from that standpoint, I feel the need to say it because of what I could only imagine they went through to open up that space. You know, I feel the need to say it because regardless of what anyone says, and if you think otherwise, then I think you've gotten to enjoy a privilege that other people haven't. But representation absolutely matters. To see someone who looks like you, speaks like you, has had the same experience, gone to the same schools, be able to accomplish something like that, is important. Our whole conversation is centered on motivation, right?
Yeah.
To keep, their peers motivated, me motivated, our mutual friends motivated. And then, the generations behind, even the ones that came before them.
Yeah.
Communicating to them that it's not too late.
Yeah.
That they can own businesses in the neighborhoods that they grew up in. And then another reason I know their identity is important to them as Black women. It is something that they take a great deal of pride in. So yeah.
Because
Shout out to that Black-owned business.
because I feel like people need more context.
Yeah.
Because you see it, right? And it's almost become, I don't want to trivialize it, but it's almost getting put on and pushed as if when people say this is organic.
Yeah.
And it's just on there and people don't have context to really understand it. We don't say enough of like, hey, educate me, or I don't know, explain it to me type stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to ask, was because you said it and it wasn't just a fleeting thing. It wasn't, it wasn't like a catchphrase. It was like, you made a point to say it.
Yeah.
And to kind of resonate in it. And that's why I wanted to ask about it.
Yeah. And then, it also like speaks to like how far we have to go, right?
Yeah.
Because every day we're seeing this in the media. The first Black, so-and-so to do X, Y, and Z. The first Hispanic, the first Asian,
There's always a first.
2023. Yeah, there's always a first, but like, like wine bar? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, so here's even a funny point of that. I don't know if funny is the right, word to use to describe it. But,
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Audience, he doesn't mean it.
So, and this is a point in venture capital, actually. There's a lady, her name's Katie Hahn. She's a white lady, older woman. She worked with the DOJ, right? She's a very accomplished woman, very, very professional, very accomplished. Worked with Andreessen Horowitz, one of the biggest tech venture capitalist funds. She broke out of that because she led their crypto fund to launch her own fund. Largest fund for a single founder, like a single firm founder, being a woman, but it was the largest. But she's a white, older woman. So even in that way, she broke down her own door.
She's a trailblazer in her own way. Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that is also a heavily male-dominated space, especially all things crypto and tech.
Yeah.
They talk about it. That's still in a gender role. It hasn't even made its way into the conversation as much with minorities because it's still being, crypto bros and more men. So it's interesting to see how history kind of repeats itself over and over again, right? So in this sector, they're dealing with gender, which is what people dealt with many years ago.
Yeah.
And they felt like they had to deal with gender before they had to deal with race and culture.
Yeah.
Which I find it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how do we keep repeating the same shit in its own way? It's I find it interesting. How do you keep learning?
So learning is, I tell people all the time, and I have a tattoo on my chest that very much represents that. I am an eternal student.
Okay.
It is one of my greatest pleasures in life to be able to learn every day. And that's something that I love about being a chef. There's no pinnacle. You know what I mean? There's no final level, final master. There is no way for a chef to know everything there is about this world and about this realm. And no matter how good I am, no matter how great people tell me I am, feed my ego, there is always going to be something for me to learn and master. And I love that about this space.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I challenged myself to do, I became a cookbook person over the course of the pandemic.
What do you mean?
I was previously like a referencer. Like I would, if, you told me about one of your favorite recipes, I would reference the recipe. I don't necessarily follow it to see, you know, word for word, but, you know, I'm referencing it to see what ingredients are used, you know, what the preparation is like. That'll inform me of why you like the dish or what I like about it. And I just do my own interpretation. I was like really adverse to cookbooks for whatever reason, because I felt like it was stifling for my creativity in that realm. But I've become a cookbook person over the course of the pandemic, just being more open to learning everything I can. I decided I wanted to go to culinary school during the pandemic. I decided I wanted to work in restaurants. Like I said, you know, my career in this space has been the polar opposite of, you know, the course that most chefs, you know, that end up on TV usually take. But I love having accepted that I am going to be a student for the rest of my life and that there is always something for me to learn. Yeah. And that is exciting.
That's dope.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, I do.
I know how to cook all this dope shit, but guess what? I learned another thing and I got another thing and I learned this and I picked up that and I wasn't familiar with that ingredient before, but I could incorporate that in my such and such. Oh, and that herb or that garnish would look so fucking good on this recipe that I have. Or it's just, I love it, man.
Well, even so, aside from just cooking, you're learning more about branding, marketing, about fashion, about just communicating with people, parenting, resonating with people.
Fatherhood.
Oh, gosh.
Being a good husband, being a better friend.
Yeah.
You know, grieving a parent. I've never done that before. You know what I mean?
You have.
We're always learning. And I am someone who is absolutely open to and excited about that.
And that's like one of the biggest things, is just being open to the notion that, hey, you don't know it all.
Yeah.
And even if you did know enough of it then, it'll change tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, I love that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
How is the grieving going? Is it still with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, for everybody watching, we are doing this interview in my mother's home.
Yep.
And it's a process. I think the thing I can say definitively is that I've accepted that I will always grieve my mother.
Yep.
You know, she and I were very, very close. We spent a lot of time together, and that is a void in my life and my heart that cannot be filled by anyone or anything or whatever the case is. But I am dealing with it in healthier ways than I previously was. You know, and I think I'm more so in a space of gratitude.
Yeah.
You know, and I have been this year more so than last year. Last year was really rough, but this year I am grateful. Like, I got to be Renee McMullen's son. Like, I never thought I would lose my mom so young. Mm-hmm. But, like, she wasn't here for a long time, but she was here for a good time.
Yeah.
She was a fantastic mother. She had a great sense of humor. You know, she was my biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I'm able to talk about her without crying.
Yeah.
You know, that's something I wasn't able to do last year, but you know, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be her son.
That's dope, man.
It's fucking lit, man.
Yeah. You don't need to fill that hole because nobody will.
Yeah. Nobody will. But you know, it's you know this. It's hard. Like, there are very specific things in your life that you go to your mother for.
Yeah.
Very specific conversations, even just jokes. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many instances where I'm just driving down the street, I see something, think of something, and I want to just call my mom and just talk shit and laugh about it. Because my mom had the greatest sense of humor. You know, so that's really tough. Like, thinking about, I think the toughest thing for me is that my son will never get the pleasure of, or won't get the pleasure of, like, knowing my mom. He remembers my mom. He still talks about my mom, but he didn't get to know my mom.
So, yeah, in step with that, my kids never knew her. My missus only knew her for a year, and it was awesome. It wasn't even a full year, I don't think. But there was enough to where she remembers. But to your point, I forgot where I heard this. It was a couple years ago. It was during the pandemic. I remember it was during the pandemic because I was listening. That's when I really got into listening to books, and I was running a lot and listening to books. But this one lady talked about when she wanted to talk to, and it happened to be her mother, she would use voice memos because she just wanted to share something with her.
Yeah.
To your point, the dialogue the two of them would have, but she can't talk to her anymore. So she would create these voice memos. And so I find myself doing that from time to time. If I want to talk to her, I just do, on an iPhone, you do a voice memo. And when you say, the kids will never know her. So I have this game with my kids. They go, you call it what you want, parents, judge me all you like. The challenge is, were you drunk or young? And so I'll tell them a story and they have to guess. Was I drunk or was I young? And more often than not, my mom is involved in all these just because she had to deal with my shit, right? So, but it's funny because they're able to almost share in these stories because the kids are a little old enough, and we have that relationship to where we connect on that level. Yeah. So those are a couple ways that seem to have helped me. And mind you, it was, what was it? 1999. So it's been a while, but it never leaves you because of the connection. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's rough.
Well, I mean, there's a few other questions I have. I mean, that's a great way to kind of end on, but I do have a few questions. Yeah. As part. What other podcasts? Do you like podcasts in general?
I do like podcasts.
Okay. What are some podcasts that you like?
So, shout out to one of my closest friends, Jared Hill. He has an amazing podcast with his podcast co-host, Travell, forgive me because I cannot remember your last name off the top of my head, but they have a podcast called Fantai.
Okay.
So Fantai is very indicative of the name. It's about the juxtaposition of being a fan of someone or something, but also like having a disdain for it or having lost respect for it or whatever the case. Like the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
Instance. The Cosby Show raised all of us. Or pudding pop. You know what I mean?
I can't eat a fucking pudding pop.
The Cosby Show raised all of us. Like, there are so many warm memories that, you know, most people who grew up, in the 80s and 90s have around the Cosby Show. But there's also some sting there. Like, oh, God damn it. He was doing what during? Oh, fuck. I can't even, engage with this show in the same way. So, their podcast
I want to check that out. I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, Fantai.
Because this is a common conversation that's been happening. The artist as a person and the artist's work. Yeah. Where do you draw you know what I mean? There's people I know that can't listen to Michael Jackson anymore. Yeah. There's people I know that can't listen to R. Kelly anymore. Yeah.
I'm one of them.
Well, I mean, when you have a kid too, it resonates something. Yeah. But what is your thoughts on artists' work, artists as a person?
I think it's completely subjective, and I try not to be judgmental of anyone. Like, when the subject of R. Kelly is brought up, right? Piece of shit, fuck him, so on and so forth. But I also have to admit, it's pretty easy for me not to listen to R. Kelly's music because I was never a huge fan of his. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's probably easier if you're not. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's easier if you don't listen to it. Michael Jackson. Still listen to Mike.
Okay.
Whether consciously or subconsciously, I didn't watch the HBO documentary. I'm not too well versed on what all of his accusations have been and so on and so forth. Right. Because with Michael Jackson, he has been such a core part of the culture, my life, so on and so forth. With him, I have to separate the artist from the music. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think it's subjective. Like with R. Kelly, for instance, I was in high school when that original story broke. I saw the videotapes. He fucked children. Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, I was 15 at the time. I knew what 15-year-old girls' bodies looked like as a 15-year-old boy who was starting, to have sex and all that other stuff. That happened. So, again, it's a little easier. Because I never really was a fan of his and I saw the video.
Your delivery of that, even though I know it happened, it just, for some reason, it hit me across the face.
And we have to be more honest about, those things.
Well, even
have the feelings and opinions that you do about, you know, artists as people versus their art or whatever the case is. And for people who still listen to R. Kelly, I get it. He made timeless music. You know what I mean? That sick motherfucker made I Believe I Can Fly.
I know. Was that Space Jam?
Yes.
You know how many kids that touched?
How many graduations?
No pun intended.
Right. How many graduations celebrate, like...
Almost as much as Smash Mouth at fucking softball games.
Yeah. Like, it's, you know... But
you have filmmakers, too, like Roman Polanski. That fucker's been dodging the bullet for how many decades?
Yep.
But he's made some iconic films.
Mm-hmm. I think it's, you know, it's a subjective thing, and I try not to judge people for, you know, the artists that they still align themselves with. You know, I think there are things that are too egregious, you know, to continue to support people.
Like, what do you think about Kanye?
Oh, God. Fuck. We don't have enough time for that. That's, you know, that's not even a double-edged sword. So what I will say about Kanye is I am someone who idolized that man.
Okay.
For me to have grown up a straight black man who doesn't watch sports, who's been super into fashion his entire life, loves to cook, you know, so on and so forth. Not only was his music incredible, but that was representation that I absolutely needed, and it was so validating for me too. Yeah. You know, Kanye broke my senior year of high school going into college, and having a prominent rapper who was a fashionista,
he was,
and flamboyant and so on, it meant so much to me. You know, and gave me a lot of confidence to just continue being who I am and who I was. You know, and then we have who he's been and who he's evolved into in the past, you know, how many ever years it's been. I was at the concert in the Bay Area where he first endorsed Trump. I was there.
No way.
I was there.
Yeah. What was that like?
It was a room mostly full of black and brown people.
Yeah.
It was the first time, like, I had never seen anything like that. That whole night was fucking bizarre. We all booed the fuck out of him.
What was the emotion before that?
We were hyped.
Right?
We were hyped. Like, it, you know, this is when he, you know.
Did he already play a set?
I think he had done like maybe 3 or 4 songs. He was late. I think they were having some technical issues. So people were kind of already agitated. And then, you know, the innovator that he is, it wasn't for me, but that was when he introduced the floating stage.
Okay.
So the tickets that we bought, we thought they were floor seats. The floor was a pit.
Oh, shit.
So it was like standing room only. So that the stage was, you know, floating above us. I can find the photos and the videos and show you guys. But it was such a bizarre experience to have this black man who had 10 years before, when I was in undergrad, you know, on camera, infamously, George Bush does not care about black people during the Hurricane Katrina relief telethon, morph into this self-hating Uncle Tom who's aligned himself with this maniac for what?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, I don't know if mental health's to blame. I don't know if his ego's to blame. I don't know if it's a combination of all of those things. But what I will say about Kanye West is he is a major fucking disappointment either way it goes.
Yeah.
Whether it's mental health, whether it's his ego, whether it's his own bullshit, it's a major fucking disappointment for me personally. You know, but I have Kanye West t-shirts that I still wear. They're the vintage ones.
Yeah.
You know, or not vintage because they're not 25 years old, but, you know, they're
I know what you meant.
Pre-crazy Kanye, you know, from the Glow in the Dark tour. Another, you know, I've seen
Good morning, Kanye.
Yeah, I'm not a concert person, but Kanye West, I have seen him most live of any other artist.
Oh, damn.
I've seen him in concert, I think, 4 times.
Okay.
And I am not like
concert guy.
Watching this who knows me knows that I am not a concert guy at all. Like, I like small, intimate, House of Blues type of venues, or like the Hollywood Bowl, and that's it. Festivals, fuck you.
So you weren't at Coachella with Frank Ocean fucking up.
Absolutely. Coachella is like my worst nightmare. Like, I have this thing, like, remember we were talking about God before.
Yeah.
I think heaven, hell, like all of these things are whatever, that is my personal hell.
Well, Indio
if
gets hot.
If I died and woke up at Coachella that just didn't end, that would be my personal hell. The heat, the dust, no place to sit.
So you're not going to Burning Man soon?
Fuck Burning Man. No.
I know we went off on a tangent, but that sounds like a dope podcast. I'm definitely gonna check that out. What other podcasts do you like?
I love the Rory and Mal podcast, formerly of the Joe Budden podcast. Loved it when they were all together. Tragic that they broke up, because those four guys were so dynamic on the mic together. But definitely rock with the Rory and Mal podcast now. Love the read with Crystal and Fury. There's another podcast I love called Side Hustle School. It's these like little small bites that I like to listen to throughout the day. 6-minute episodes, 10-minute episodes, where the host, I think his name is Chris Gillaboo, he interviews entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And the stories vary. They're all, across the board. Failures, successes, quick little cash grabs, unexpected, white label businesses that people started that ended up blowing up. Like, it's really interesting. So Side Hustle School is great. There's a podcast called Making that was discontinued for whatever reason. So it was like, I think the first season was Making Oprah, the second season was Making Obama, and the last season was Making Beyonce.
Interesting.
But very, very, very interesting. Like, you think people's stories, but you get like intimate details and first
I love that
interviews.
Stuff. Yeah,
from the people that were closest to them. So that's another great one. Marvel launched. So my favorite Marvel character of all time is Wolverine.
Okay.
I am the biggest James Howlett, Logan fan in the world.
My youngest son's middle name is Logan because of it.
Coolest fucking kid in the world. Coolest dad in the world.
Connected already.
Coolest dad, right. Over comic book characters. But Wolverine's my favorite character of all time. So what is it? Is it the Night of the Wolverine? But they launched a podcast for Wolverine. So there's been 2 seasons so far. They haven't done it in like 2 years, but that's one of my favorite ones. But yeah, I'm a podcast guy.
Sounds like it, man.
I'm a podcast guy. I wish the only reason I would want to go back to the Bay and back to corporate America was because of my commute. I had so much time, and because, I worked a corporate job and I was sitting at a desk all day. I listen to podcasts from like 8 a.m. to like 6 p.m. every day. Now I don't really have the time. Like I split my time between, Fantai, The Read, and Rory and Mal, but I don't listen to the episodes like, from beginning to end like I used to. Like I catch them when I can.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Oh, and This American Life.
Why do I know that? Why do I know This American Life?
It is one of the greatest podcasts. Ira.
One of the oldest.
Yeah. It's do they have a connection to NPR? Yeah, they have some.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Because I always see their art next to Guy Raz with How I Built This.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's NPR, definitely.
WEBT. Yeah. I forgot the acronyms, but yeah, This American Life is wonderful. Ira Glass, his voice, like, Ira, God bless you. God bless Ira Glass. I love what they're doing over there at This American Life. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. That's dope.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, is there something you want to share about yourself before we close this out? I mean, tell us, like, what do you want where people can find you? What do you?
So speaking of podcasts, thank you, Don Don. I am the newest co-host of the Break That Bread podcast that I do with my boy Jeremy. It is a great fucking time. We cook for our guests. We talk shit. We talk about their journey through life, their careers, and all the ingredients and components that went into making the wonderful dish that is them. Yeah. So people can find me on the Break That Bread podcast whenever we launch sometime soon. People can find me everywhere on social media at Seth Brundle. I am doing another pop-up sometime this summer, so follow my social media to see when that's gonna be.
Get some tacos.
Get some motherfucking tacos. some delicious tacos. And yeah. Social media. Yeah. Social media. I usually inform everybody of everything I'm doing on social media. So
I like what you do with your social. You seem to do it well. You clearly make the effort.
So I do, but I took the pressure off myself. I remember when I first moved back to LA, I was like trying to get my numbers up. I wanted to, have that be a stream of income for me. And I put so much fucking work and effort into it. And I think I maybe an entire year of, pouring my heart and soul into content creation, I maybe gained like 100 followers. It was so fucking frustrating.
But now it's just, you just kind of do it as it is.
Just do it when I feel like it. Do it when I'm inspired. Shout out to one of my closest friends, Ashley Nguyen. She's an incredible photographer. She's getting into video and stuff like that. So, we shoot these like fun food videos every now and then when we feel like it.
Here in this kitchen.
Yeah, in this kitchen. Yeah, I do a lot. Shout out to my mom again. Like my mom, this has been a safe space and a haven for her entire family and even people that are not, a part of our family. Her doors were always open.
That's what you should get right here, like a little sign.
Yeah.
Like what's your mom's name again?
Renee.
Renee. So Renee's Kitchen.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna like do something in cement or get some placard like put somewhere in the house.
Yeah.
Some type of dedication to her without the new homeowners knowing.
Yeah.
So if the new homeowners happen to, watch this episode in a year or so.
There's an Easter egg in the house, man.
There's an Easter egg in the house, and don't you dare fucking move it. But yeah.
Well, thank you, Seth, man. I appreciate it for sharing the time.
I love talking to you.
Yeah.
I love hanging out with you guys.
I love hanging out with you.
Yeah.
But I just appreciate you sharing so much, man. Thank you.
I'm an open book, man. I'm open. What do we talk about? Being open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks.